Yes.
Whoever it is.
Mhm.
Thank you. Welcome to the joint the working group meeting of the Westford Library tonight on December 18th, 2024. And we'll start with a roll call of just a reminder that the meeting is recorded, as you've just heard. So anything that you say or enter into the chat will become part of the public record. With that in mind, could I ask Buffy to read the roll call, please?
Yep. Dirk's here. Fleckner is not here yet. Roach not here.
I'm here.
She's here.
Oh, wait.
I just signed in.
Okay, thank you. I will
Sure.
check it off. Secor,
Here.
Teal,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
Hazelton,
Here.
Karpinski,
Here.
Padden,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
and Zegowitz, you said is not here yet. How about Wimberg?
No, I don't see either one of them.
Okay. So Berlinski and Perkins not here tonight. Liedberg not here tonight. Rainville.
Here.
Kristen Lass not
Here.
here.
I'm here.
Oh yeah, there you are. Okay, thank you. Goodwin. Didn't I see Goodwin?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Monks.
Here.
Patil.
Here.
And Sawyer, Anzalone, Sow, and Tucker not here. Wilkovich, Cordy.
Here.
You is not here, and Bono Bunker is not here.
And Dina Canabar is here. Even though she
I
has
will put her right in. Hi, Dina.
Yeah, I know Tom said he could make it, but so he'll probably pop in a little bit later. With that in mind, I guess next up on the agenda is the minutes from December 2nd. I'm assuming everyone had a chance to read them. Are there any changes that are requested? Buffy?
I made a change. I corrected that I had typed where is it? The meeting would be January 20. I think I put 25 or 26. It's supposed to be, I believe, 22. It's at the end of the meeting minutes, Ellen.
So was this the future meeting with the Historic Commission?
Yeah, I had it typed wrong.
And 2025 is correct.
Oh,
Let me double check. I'm moving.
I thought that was a Friday night.
22 is correct. You're right.
Okay.
I had to check the calendar.
So I just corrected that. That's the only thing I changed.
Okay.
So is that, I guess it'd be a motion to accept the minutes subject to that one
As
revision?
corrected.
As
So
corrected.
is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I guess Buffy, in addition to check minutes, please call a roll.
So that was Nancy seconded it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Dirks, aye. Fleckner, not here. Roach,
Aye.
Secor,
Aye.
Teal,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski was absent. That
No, I'm
meeting.
here. Aye.
So you would be abstain?
I can abstain, yes.
Yes, okay. Padden,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Zegowitz not here, and Wimberg not here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 801.
Great, thanks. Next is the architect's report, which item under discussion is the skylight restoration. Is that you, Leah, or is it somebody else?
Leah's gonna do it, and I'll just say that when we were reviewing the documents, we just noticed that there was we we didn't have a good direction on the skylight. We realize it's a little late for this, but we need a direction. The design team needs one, so we really need a consensus this evening. So Leah, do you want to tee it up? Show some images?
Yes, I will share my screen if I can remember how to do this on my remote desktop.
Just
I
bottom
think it's
center.
this one. Yeah, it's making sure I pick the right screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Nope, oh, there you go. Yep.
Okay. So we are absolutely going to dive into the skylight because that's the meat of this conversation, but just very quickly, we did also want to touch on another element that the design team had taken some time to review since the last time we presented, and that was namely the transition from the old to the new. So after several design iterations, we landed on going back to something similar from the 2016 image and introducing this glass slot because it was really the cleanest way to transition from the 1980s wing and the brick there to the new brick for the addition. So just wanted to click through that so everybody could see where the design is currently. And then moving on to our skylight options. There three that we've highlighted. I'm sure there are a few variations within them, but the three primary ones that we've identified are to restore or replace the existing historic skylight. So as you can see on the left-hand side of this image, that little turquoise triangle is roughly where the existing skylight is currently. You cannot see it from Main Street. It's very hard to actually see it from anywhere on the ground. But it is historic, it is existing, it's part of the fabric that we still have. However, because it is not accessible from the inside and it's not something that anyone can get to easily, we have no idea what condition it currently is in. So one option is to see what condition it's in, try to restore it if we can, or replace it because we are replacing that entire roof anyway. So if it does need to be replaced, now would be a good time to do it because we're going to be replacing all of the roofing around it anyway. As you can see in this kind of sketchy image to the right, that is actually an original section from the 1890s drawing set that had this connection from that triangular skylight down into the Mary Atwood room and these side walls that essentially make a tunnel essentially from the outside into the inside, and the inside was an inset glass panel with divided lights. As anyone who's been in that room in the past few decades knows, it's been covered with plywood for a long time now. So once again, we don't know the condition of that laylight or those walls that are making the sides of that tunnel. So as part of this more comprehensive scheme, we would have to replace those walls, clean out anything that may have gotten in there. We want to make sure that it's a nice thermal envelope inside there, so that we're not just bringing a lot of cold air into the Mary Atwood room because we're, blowing and spraying in a lot of new insulation in the attic in an effort to make this room and the building perform better and be more comfortable. So we want to make sure that we're not negating any of those efforts by trying to bring this natural light in. But if we were to do this approach, you would actually be able to get some daylight from the exterior down through this piece of glass, this laylight, into the Mary Atwood room. If we wanted a slightly less intense version of that, we could keep the effect of it on the inside, essentially replace the laylight. We have a feeling that it's probably not going to be able to be restored because it's been under that plywood for a long time. So we would replace that piece of glass with true divided lights, restore it to its historic glory as best we can from the inside, provide some backlighting so it feels like it's got that connection to the outside, but it wouldn't actually. We would remove that existing skylight, we would replace it with roofing, and that way we don't have any concerns about the condition of the skylight or it potential leaking and not being able to know right away that it's leaking. And then the third option, very similar to the one that I just described, we'd still be removing that existing skylight, replacing it with roofing, but instead of doing that divided light glass lay light on the interior, there are some other options, whether it's a simulated daylight product, which is essentially a really fancy light fixture that has different tones to it that can be brighter or dimmer depending on the settings and what time of day it is. And then there's some also fabric systems that are similar. They have lighting integrated behind them that just make this nice soft glow that we could introduce into the ceiling that would be a little bit nicer and softer than if you were to do this with an inset piece of gyp or painted wood. So that is what I have to share. Alicia, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
The only thing is that we don't know why, but that skylight was essentially abandoned at some point. Someone knew something and it was essentially abandoned. We like Leah mentioned, we don't know what condition it's in. But the budget is holding a fair amount of money to be able to restore that if that is the desire. It's being held in the estimate right now. It's the amount that the estimators, chucked at our talking them through option one, which is $50,000 for that first option, just to make sure that if that's the desire, we do have money earmarked for that.
And just out of curiosity, out of more than curiosity, but is it if it's a historic feature, does it require input from the historic commission?
It's not visible from the street, but it could be, but it's you're within the district. This isn't something that's actually visible. So
And I think they have jurisdiction over the whole building, inside
Okay.
and out. And they've said that they need to be a part of these decisions.
And presumably, if we were to vote to restore it, they would not care. It's if we're going to vote to not restore it that they would have something to say about that, which I believe is what, January 22nd?
Right.
So it's a fair ways away with an unknown cost.
Right.
well, and it needs to be drawn one way or the other.
Ellen, do you have any strong opinions? It's your building.
I guess I have a question about the artificial lighting options. So these would need to be electrified so that you could turn off the backlight or turn off the daylight component to the screen. That's where it is.
Yes.
So I was told by a former director, that this was covered up actually in the 60s because projection of movies was the hot new technology and they couldn't get the room dark enough to show movies with the skylight. And also they said it was very hard to keep clean. So, it sounds like it was a maintenance challenge. And it's one of the few places I've never seen. So I really don't know the actual status of the glass or the glass in the roof. I mean, in the ceiling of Marriott Wood either.
Can you show
Right,
two
cool.
again?
Sure.
Well, Glenn, can you just, well, Glenn has a hand up if you want to add
Just-
something.
Just so I understand, it's $50,000 to restore it.
Yes. Well, yes,
Best guess.
as our best guess, talking the elements through with the cost estimators and describing it to them and showing this, that was their estimate. Nothing has been drawn, but that was their estimate of it. It's obviously a rough order of magnitude. But for option 2 and 1 was estimated to be at least half. Again, rough order of magnitude numbers without, again, without knowing what is more specific about the systems.
Gina, you asked for option 2 for a raise, and I'm guessing.
Oh, they spent less time on 2 and I'm trying to compare it with 3 now, and now I understand the difference between 2 and 3.
They're very similar. It's just
Yeah.
what product you want to install and what you want to see from Mary Atwood.
Mike, your hands up.
Yeah, I just had a question, more toward the design of the skylight. So if we tried to restore the existing, is there any concern about the thicker insulation materials and new roofing not being able to waterproof correctly into an existing skylight?
There's always that possibility. We don't know. No one knows the state of the existing skylight. We know currently, to our knowledge, it is not leaking, but once we get in there, we don't know. We assume it can be modified to meet a current roof, but no one has any idea what it really looks like.
Well, you're replacing the skylight in
No,
number
well,
1.
that's the question, whether we restore the historic one or build a new one. That's also part of the conversation.
Yep.
So that's a 1A,
Well,
Okay,
we
right?
could
There's
we
kind of a
could
1 and a
split it.
1A.
Mm-hmm.
keeping the skylight, whether it's try to restore the historic or replace with a particular triangle skylight.
Yes, and I will say one thing that is a benefit of our particular approach to the existing roof structure right now is that because we didn't want to upset the current roof lines, all of that roofing assembly will more or less stay the same thickness that it is currently, and we're adding the insulation to on the underside in between the joists. So that does help us, but to Alicia's point, we don't necessarily know everything until we get up there and see it.
Glenn, is your hand still up, or is it just residual?
Actually, it was supposed to go down, but since it didn't, I'll ask. So the point of an option where we don't restore the existing historical, but replace it, so we replace the skylight. What exactly is the point of that?
If people felt that if the skylight, we find that it can't be restored, but if people really like the idea of having a skylight in there, we would bring a skylight back. If it can't be restored, then we would replace in kind with something new.
There's also the idea back to the waterproofing and understanding, like skylights that are created now have more thermal breaks. We know more about how they're made and being watertight. So there's a little more control about integrating that into the new roofing system. It's just a little more of a sure bet than trying to tie in the existing. We have no strong opinions one way or the other. That's just another reason why a new skylight might be considered.
Jim?
Yeah, hey there. I guess I'd be a big fan of keeping the skylight. Whether it has to be restored to historical standards, probably not. On my end, I'm not necessarily committed to that, but I certainly would like to see that skylight stay one way or another. I think that bringing back some of the grandeur of that room would be nice. We're going a long ways with this project, a long ways. Are we at like what, 32 million or 31 million for this project? I think $50,000 to get that skylight restored, replaced, whatever, is a drop in the bucket. And I think it would go a long way to keeping some kind of the historic grandeur of that building. That's it. That's all for me. Oh, and just what's going on top of the roof? What's on the roof surface right now and what's going to be there in a year or 2 years?
It's synthetic slate right now that has some asbestos mastic material as part of it. We believe that it was the more the glue than the tiles themselves, but that is over the entire existing building right now. So that's all getting disposed of and being replaced with a new aesthetics or new synthetic
A
slate.
new synthetic slate. Yeah, okay. So it's basically going to be the same kind of the same
Yes.
kit on top, and so we're not going to have too much difficulty finding a curb or some kind of skylight to replace the existing, right? Okay,
Right.
great, thank you.
Jane, then Mike.
Yeah, I agree with Jim. I think that the opening is important to maintain the depth of all of that and being able to really see into how the original building was built. And given that the roof is being replaced, it's the perfect time to design a new skylight. You know, I agree. Maybe it doesn't need to be the original glass and metal. Maybe we can mimic it with a new one, but a new one will give you better thermal and um, make sure that we're able to deal with water leakage and things like that. So I'm for option 1 or 1A.
Okay, Mike.
Uh, I agree. The skylight seems like a good idea, but I am very concerned about reusing it in any capacity. Typically old stuff, once you touch it, it starts leaking. And I'd be very concerned that we refinish this skylight and then 6 months after construction, we have some leaking and some damage. It's just very difficult to get old unknown structures to hold water or work functionally. So I'm certainly on board with the skylight, but I'm very concerned about reusing the existing one. Personally, I think that should be one of the last options pending what the Historic Commission says. But I definitely think it's a risk to reuse it.
And
Caroline.
this is Chris. Raised my hand, but I'm wondering if there's a way to give the aesthetic appeal of the skylight from the inside, but to have a modern material on the outside that will give the waterproofing and also shatterproofing, structural integrity, snow and ice and hail and such. Thank you.
Do you want to answer that, Leo, or
Yeah, there are a couple of different ways it can be done. That is kind of what options 2 and 3 were trying to do without introducing the light component, was just trying to simulate it from the inside, but keep the envelope of the roof completely watertight and solid by just re-roofing over it. At the same time, if the idea is to use a new skylight to replace the existing, there are other materials. As Jean was starting to get to, it does not have to be glass. There are acrylics and all sorts of other materials that could be used in a new skylight that have a little bit more resistance as far as hail and weather and all of that. So there are a few different ways that we could address that concern.
okay, Caroline? Sorry to lose you
I
to Chris.
just had a question. I just wanted to make sure that I understood correctly at the beginning. One of the main concerns with the existing skylight is the lack of accessibility to deal with any damages or leaks. Did I hear that correctly, or did I misunderstand?
That was one of the reasons, from what Ellen Rainville has heard from other folks when this was done. That was one of the reasons that it was blocked up from the inside, was because it was just hard to keep it clean. And that is the thing with skylights too, is they're wonderful when they're clean and they're bringing natural light into your space. But when they're not clean, that's a little bit of a different story. So that is something that we would have to consider, is there a way to get up there and clean it, or make sure everything's still watertight and everything periodically. So that is part of the maintenance of a skylight.
And are we thinking that maybe that issue, the maintenance, kind of improving the functionality, would happen if it needed to be replaced? Or no, we'd have the same issues? I'm just thinking, like, if there's a problem with the skylight, like, they're beautiful and it's great to have natural light, but are we creating, are we having the same problem just with newer material?
It is a consideration. We could look into options for how you could potentially get into the space from the outside. It's still pretty difficult because it's a triangle behind a chimney up on the top of a sloped roof. So it is going to be a challenge to get to it on the outside regularly. On the inside, perhaps we could look to see if there's a route to get up there, but it is a challenging location.
Jean?
So 2 points. One is anything that was changed in the 1960s was not changed because of historic preservation standards. That was before historic preservation was a thing. And so things were modified for ease and not good reasons that we should be talking about now. We should be talking about how to solve the problem. Now, a solution might be to frit the glass or to put a semi transparent layer in the glass so that you can't see leaves
Yep,
or dirt
fair.
up there, rather than completely throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yep, great points.
I think Ellen, I saw your hand up.
Yes, I was going to make the point there is a hatch outside of Mary Atwood so that you can go in and clean the underside of the glass in the ceiling. But it's a very difficult place to get to on the roof. Leah's correct. All of the roof lines leading up to this are sloping, so you can't really put scaffolding up. And there is, a chimney, and there are attic windows actually on either side of the chimney, and then this triangle. So, if we're replacing this, with something more modern and more durable, we want to choose something that's the easiest thing to maintain. I'm not sure. I think it's another place where what we might want to do historically and what we would want to do in terms of practicality are going to have some tension.
I guess I just observed that, on the new center fire station, we had, leaks in the roof, and it took us, several years, with an easily accessible roof with a, a hatch to even find that problem. It was insidious. We did find it and fix it, but it took a while. So, we don't want to have that same issue with with the thing that's hard to get to. And so I think I agree with Mike that if we do preserve it, we really have to do something new, because we keep it chasing old construction around in that space. Jim?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I agree. What Ellen was saying, what you were saying, I think we'd be silly to try and restore old technology up there for the sake of having old technology up there and say that, pat ourselves on the back that we restored the historic asset there that then has been abandoned to history and nobody uses them anymore for a reason. So I think I love the idea of having it up there. I think it should be restored to modern standards, and yeah, I understand it's going to be in a tough spot, but there's a lot of tall windows on the building. There's 3-story buildings up by the roof eaves and things that you get a lift, you get a cherry picker every once in a while. Yeah, it's a pain. It's a pain sometimes to maintain those things, but I think it can be done. I think there's if I'm not mistaken, isn't there I'm just looking at that sketch that's up on the screen right now. It looks like there is a huge skylight in the middle of a flat roof, about 50 feet away. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a monitor, so it's vertical glass as opposed to
Oh,
horizontal
okay. And there's a
glass,
flat
and
roof
you
on
can
top.
climb out a window to get it. The square in the middle, that's actually the elevator overrun. This is an older
Ah, I see.
sketch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I think it's we got to go modern standards. It'd be crazy to go old standards, but
And
there's
I'm
a lot of
getting
maintenance involved and a lot of cleaning involved in that building. So I don't think we should blow this away for that reason only.
so I'm getting the distinct sense that the will is to have a skylight maintained, but with modern materials. Is that correct? And if so, I guess we need a motion to that effect.
I have one quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, again, I can't raise my hand. Do we have to be concerned about, assume that we have this with light passing from outside in, and we make it perfectly watertight. Do we also have an issue with condensation inside of the building? I know that hopefully we don't have that high of humidity, but many times I see skylights that there'll be condensation on the inside in the winter and it'll drip down into the building. Is that a concern with this, or can that be resolved?
That can be resolved. That's all in the detailing and the materials that we choose and how we make that weather tight kind of tunnel that I was calling it around the sides of the skylight. It's all how we insulate around and making sure that we don't have warm air hitting cold glass, because that's what's going to cause your condensation. So a potential concern, yes, but we will do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen.
Nancy?
Thank you.
And just one question, how are we gonna maintain it? I mean, we can't maintain it now, we can't clean it now. We're putting a new one back that we're gonna have the same problem. We won't be able to clean, so it's beautiful for the first, until it's not, and then what?
Well, I think that comes back to a few points that other members of the committee have brought up, that it's not the easiest, but there are doable things. You can bring in a cherry picker to get to the outside if you need to clean something. Jean had a great point about introducing some translucency to the glass, either on the exterior or the interior, or both, so that if it gets dirty, you're already seeing diffuse light, so you're not as worried about if something is clouding up clear glass. And then, as Ellen mentioned, there is a hatch that you can get to from the inside. So as long as we maintain that path with the redetailing of this area, you can clean that ley light that's on the interior of Mary Atwood, and then potentially get up to the bottom side of that skylight. That piece is more difficult, but you can at least get to the outside portion from the outside and the interior portion from the inside.
Jeff, you're a new hand, so I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
you before Jean.
Yeah, my opinion is, as I've been looking at these plans for the past months now, there's no doubt in my mind that given the amount of glass that we're adding on with this new section of the building on top of all the existing glass, I'm going to be strongly recommending that in our annual operating budget for this building that we have professional glass cleaning done at least once a year. So I think that, once we have some budget numbers to work with from a professional glass cleaning company, we certainly could add the skylight into that purview. But I mean, we're adding a lot of windows to this building, and it's been a concern of mine for a little while now about the maintenance of all that glass on the exterior, particularly.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Jean?
Yeah, since we're talking about maintenance, I've been asking a question. I don't think I've gotten a good answer. This flat roof right there are long windows, and I see leaves piling up there and snow piling up there, so that when you're sitting on the other side of the glass, you're not gonna get a clean view over the roof. Do we have a maintenance solution for that?
From the design standpoint, that lower roof would be accessed primarily from a ladder from grade and someone going up onto that. It is ballasted, so that when it is in a cleaner condition without leaves or snow, you are looking at a washed stone sort of product as opposed to just roof membrane. But yes, to get the snow or the leaves off, it would be a ladder, whereas the roof above that's being looked out from the offices, those are all casement windows that you can get out of. So if a person needed to, they could climb out the window and clean off that middle roof, and then the large roof does have a roof hatch up to it.
So Jeff, are you comfortable with that solution, with just a ladder to clean that lower roof?
I guess, Leah, my question is, where are the roof drains going to be located on those sections of roofs?
We do have extensive roof drain and now tapered insulation plans that we can share. There's a rough version that we included in our 50% set. There are several sets of roof drains on this higher portion. I think there are 4 splitting up that large expanse. Then there's another set on either side of the roof monitor on the mid roof, and then there's one roof drain in the center of the low portion of roof, and all of those drain inside the building and then back out. There's a primary drain and an overflow drain, but Jeff, I would be more than happy to share our roof drain and tapered insulation plans with you if you'd like to see them.
Yeah, I would love to see them. Thank you. To answer your question, I, you know, the actual design of the building and the maintenance of it doesn't really scare me. It's the lack of bandwidth and manpower that we have available to us to cover all these areas. We have 30 buildings around town, all of which require certain levels of maintenance. I don't believe there's any plans to add any additional manpower to the maintenance staff at the library itself. So that's very concerning to me that we're adding all this additional square footage and additional workload, and I don't know if we're budgeting for additional manpower to meet that need. So that's my concern. Putting a ladder up and shoveling a section of roof off or getting leaves off of there is not a huge issue, but it's just making sure that we have the availability to cover that area.
Okay, as I see no more hands, so we're back to the question of what do we want to do? And is that still maintain a skylight but use modern construction, or is that something else? And I guess we need a motion, whatever the will may be.
Does the designer need a specific option chosen or just the yes to a skylight? So do you need to know exactly which option we prefer?
Would be helpful so they know what to draw.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3 are different.
Yes, one's natural, one is artificial, it seems like. So should we get a quick consensus if people want artificial or if they want the natural option, and then we can make the motion from there? Because the opinion I got was people like the natural option
Yeah,
with modern construction. Is that
Yeah.
generally correct? Okay, so I can make the motion. I make a motion to approve the use of a skylight in the project with modern construction materials without reusing the existing unless required by Historic Commission.
I'll second that.
Great. For motion second, so Buffy, I guess it's time for your magic.
Okay. Just writing down as much as I can. Okay. So Dirk's aye, Fleckner not here, Roach.
Nay.
Okay. Secor,
Aye.
Teal,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski,
Aye.
Padden,
Aye.
Roberts,
aye.
Zegowitz.
Aye.
So that's 1, 2, 3. 910.
And Caroline, for the sake of the minutes, do you want to record why the objection, or just let it
Sure.
stand?
My concern is the maintenance. I think I like the idea of preserving a historic feature, but I don't think that it's going to add enough value.
That's fair. We shall put that in the minutes then. So thank you. With that, I think we move on to our OPM report.
Okay. The first thing on there is the bid schedule. I know the architects are madly drawing. The plan is to go to bid January 24th. The drawings would be done, but I think that the actually be available on the on bid docs available would be the following Wednesday, on the 29th. And what that allows is when the planning board meets on the 6th to hopefully sign off on the project. Then there's a 2-week period for comments and people to respond to. We have to wait for that time to make sure that no one has great concerns, and that would be the 20th. So that way we would advertise that Wednesday after the 2-week period is over. And then you advertise 1 week, you have to post the advertisement, and then it takes a week to show up. It takes a week to advertise. So that is the plan right now. So hopefully that Wednesday, the 29th is when the documents would be available to bid. And it will take roughly 2 months if things go along without delay, about mid-March. Right now, Thursday, March 13th is when we would be looking for bids to be due. So that's the rough schedule for bid. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the finishes committee, we just had a meeting Monday, and it seems like there are a number of items that are still up in the air. And I'm wondering if that schedule that you just said of going to bid in January is realistic. And also I guess there was a DPW or different notes that were sent out recently in the last few weeks from town agencies, and I'm wondering, is there enough time to get all those things picked up to the satisfaction of the town? So I'm just wondering if that 29th is a realistic date.
Well, we're going to push for it. We're gonna try, because any delays will translate. Or the concern is it will. The longer they're concerned that there are delays, it will translate to money. The town engineer last Friday released a revised letter with more comments. The design team, as I understood it, we're sending draft response to him this afternoon to review, to make sure that he was comfortable with responsive. If he had any other questions, they wanted to be able to get a little more time until they formally respond on Friday to have packets ready for folks to review in preparation of the January 6th meeting.
Krista, I saw your hand for a minute. Was that up and down, or was that for a reason?
Alicia answered my question. I just wanted an indication from Horsley Witten of how close they were to thinking they were satisfying, because I'm also concerned about the timeline, not only associated with going out to bid, but with signing a lease for 515 Groton Road. And the longer that we hold going out to bid, the longer time we're going to have to be at 515 Groton Road, and just concerned about that as well as budget.
And Mike, was your hand up too for a minute?
Yes, but it's not related to that discussion.
Okay.
So I put it down. I just have a question for the design team at the end.
Okay.
And Jean, in terms of finishes, there was a meeting today that Ellen and Christina attended. We were talking through some of the concerns about, that were about some of the finishes presented. The design team, they're gonna try doing a bit of electronic back and forth, sharing images. It's always better to touch and feel, but to try and keep it moving, they're going to do some, sharing images and FedExing when necessary to try and keep that, keep the selections moving, to try and make sure we stay on target.
Okay, hopefully I'm invited to the next meeting of that.
Okay.
I don't think I was invited to that one.
Jean, this was a response to my email, so yes, we definitely will need your help to be sure that we keep the communication on the level we want.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
When the bids come back, is there a is this committee, Ellen, or is it some subcommittee that reviews those and picks a winner?
All the contractors are being pre-qualified, which is in process now. We were going to have a meeting the second week of January to review the response to the submissions for pre-qualify the contractors. So as the contractor, general contractor, and filed subbidders will all be pre-qualified. You are then required to take the lowest
Okay.
bid because everyone is pre-qualified. They were all sort of deemed responsible bidders. So I think the law technically says lowest responsible bidder, but as they are all pre-qualified, you are going to need to take the lowest bid for general contractors.
Okay, good.
Anything else
Any more
on?
questions? I guess we'll move on to the next one on your agenda.
Okay, there were, on here was just the MBE WE percentages. This is something that we wrote to the state and requested. This is a particular calculus that the state has to do. It's not a statewide thing. They take into various components. They have to know what the town, the size of the project. We had to share a bunch of, I shared project information. I don't know if the town had to share anything, but it's a very specific number that they provide to the town. And these are goals, which is minority business enterprise and women business enterprise. I think percentages for goals for the construction team to meet. They are goals, and they will try the contractor teams will aim to build their teams according to meet these percentage goals.
Any other questions for Alicia? Sorry.
That's okay. I'm still here, so we can go on with to Ellen's part,
Yeah.
and I'm always available for questions.
Scott, I can ask my question.
Sorry, the
now.
important thing, I
Go
didn't
ahead,
mention
Alicia.
it. We are on budget. Everybody saw that. We did do the estimate. The estimates came in. The two teams reconciled them. We're on budget. We're good in terms of the estimates for the project. So that's,
Okay,
and
Mike?
you know, we had two teams doing it. Both are professional estimators, so I have confidence in the professionals' ability to do their job and, you know, project the prices.
And we held extra money in case there are tariffs. And we have a tariff on steel in the construction and steel shelving in the library. So that's the figure that you see as a potential negative against the contingency. And
But the tariffs are on steel now, aren't they? I mean, the tariffs on steel were never undone by Biden, so the tariffs on steel are a fait accompli.
I think if more comes from Canada, it might be more costly.
Oh, okay.
That's the concern, that it might cross the Canadian border. And there are a couple of figures that may yet be reduced in the budget. I have a figure for book storage, which is less than the $70,000 we're holding. And I'm still waiting for a newer quote on the liability insurance for the non-public space we'll be moving into. And I'm hoping that will be reduced as well. So both of those reductions would make the contingency budget go up. And speaking of the future offsite space, the select board did vote Tuesday night to authorize Kristen to finish negotiations for 515 Groton Road. And so I do want to ask the joint committee to vote as well to approve negotiation and finalization of the lease. Because although the decision to go with that bidder is in the minutes from way back in October, we want to be sure that this body approves that as well.
Okay, well, before Mike's question, let's just do that then, if that's to get that past us. So is there a motion to approve Ellen's recommendation? I guess let's keep it simple.
Before that, I have a question.
Okay, good.
So I think there was, I don't know if it's an open item, but in the new lease space, I think there was discussion about, we voted to approve them to do a study about the feasibility of the change of use group in that building. Do we have any updates on that?
everything having to do with that building's classification as a business B building and the occupancy allowed has been cleared with our incoming new fire chief, with Feingold Alexander, with the code consultant that Feingold Alexander hired, and the two final pieces of clearance that will occur before occupancy, maybe not before we move in some book stacks, is a life safety inspection. The fire chief is asking for that, and a testing of the generator. So, so the issue of a non-group A building has been gone through. We didn't exactly, I don't believe feasibility study was exactly what we did, but absolutely it completely was discussed for 7 weeks. And we have come up with plans that show all of the life safety, egress, and occupancy numbers that the fire chief was concerned about. And there are these two final steps that have to occur before we take occupancy.
Okay, so we have everything confirmed that we can change the use group. There's no concern that something's going to come up. We don't have enough exit signs. We don't have proper fire alarm enunciation. Any of that stuff has all
Correct.
been ruled out.
I've been asked to put up exit maps, but no, and we don't actually change the use. The use is holding down the amount of public that can be allowed in the 3 suites that we will be leasing on the 2nd floor. So there's a rim of staff offices around these 3 suites, which typically have 1 occupant. And then we have within each of the 3 suites a limit of the number of public we can have at any given time. And what that is going to mean is that our children's programming will take place offsite in collaboration with the Westford Recreation Department and their space at Rodenbush. And it means we won't have a meeting room space to offer the public.
Okay, and then as a follow-up, and I'm just very concerned about this, as you can tell. Are we moving in books to this space, and have fire protection engineers confirmed that the sprinkler system can handle the additional load of the flammables?
Yes, although actually packed books are not all that flammable.
Understood. Yeah.
So the basement level of 4,500 square feet is where we will be having books.
Okay.
They'll be closed stacks, not open to the public.
Okay.
There will typically never be more than 1 or 2 staff persons, one potentially pulling books for the public, one potentially shelving books that have been returned. And there's been a great deal of talk about the sprinkler systems because the shelving has to be a certain amount of height lower. So this truly has been one of the more intense safety discussions that, has gone over multiple weeks. I don't want to sound dismissive, Michael, but yes, it was very clear we were not going to be allowed to go to this building or lease it until all of these questions were answered.
And then last question is, the building owner has confirmed in writing they will pay for all of this.
They have their fire inspection, their sprinkler inspection, and they've had a recent generator test. And the question is, will any of those suffice now for our fire chief, or will they have to be done again? So yes, that's part of the lease agreement, is that they have all of these systems working.
Yeah, understood. But those systems are being inspected to a business occupancy. They're not being inspected to assembly, which is the use group we're going to use it for.
No,
It's
we're not going
not.
to use it for assembly.
Okay,
Right,
we're
it's-
classifying ourselves as business.
Right. So
We are
it's
Okay.
it's an accessory use
That's the piece I was
under
missing.
the
Yeah.
business, under the
Yeah.
business. So no space is more than 49 people, which is how we're able to get
Okay.
with that accessory use.
That
Yes,
makes
and
me
then
feel much more comfortable in it then, because I was still assuming we'd be falling into the assembly group, and
Nope.
that made me concerned. So,
nope, we're
okay,
not.
that makes me, all right, that
Can't reclassify the building.
understood. That was the concern.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to authorize the town manager to negotiate an agreement with the owner for leasing 515 Groton Road for the library.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Buffy, I guess time for another roll call.
All right, Dirk's aye, Fleckner not here, Roach,
Aye.
Secor,
Aye.
Steele,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski,
Aye.
Madden,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Zegowitz,
All right.
10-0-0.
Thank you. Okay, I guess what's next?
So I think I touched on the insurance, the storage estimates. The next big thing, once the lease is signed, I can finalize the RFRs for museum caliber storage, book and collection storage, furniture moving, and book moving, and get those RFRs out. And I will just say that I shared with the Butter Screening Committee the initial response from Town Council, and we can decide, I think, before the planning board next meeting, we want to be sending that to the abutter, but we might also want to meet in case, there's feeling that town council's position is very limited. So, so that continues to be in the works. And I'll just go ahead and say that the Commission on Disability voted to provide a support letter for maintaining our historic entrance without a ramp. I'm sending them the plans that they requested and a sample support letter. And we have continued town internal review for the first full week of January on Monday the 6th, Wednesday the 8th with conservation. Then we have the Historical Commission asking them for a support letter on the 22nd. And because of all of these meetings, it bumps what would have been our January 6th joint meeting and trustee meeting. And I'm just asking you to think about a different date of Wednesday, January 15th, but maybe I'll pop down and just ask if Alicia wants to share more under new business on cost reconciliation, or if we want to proceed to the vote under new business B.
I'm happy to answer any questions about the cost, but I had nothing else to share. Christian, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, again, just express or discuss the costs a little bit more for the cost estimate. And, with this being a design bid build project rather than a CM at risk, and with our contingency being less than a 10%, just get your take again, Alicia, on your confidence that we are still on budget and that we're not going to be needing to do an exorbitant amount of change orders or something that's going to extend our lease period. So just wanted to express those questions and concerns with the whole group tonight.
I understand. I think there's the design team, we're trying to work through all the details that are needed. The more information that's drawn, the better the number's going to be and the fewer the change orders. I know I've been going back and forth with the design team about details I'd like to see drawn and approach, and that's sort of what started the skylight conversation. Because where are the details? What details? So we needed the clarification on that type of thing. So they're working on it, going back and forth. I had reviewed the drawings and reviewed the specs to see if I could find holes in it. Again, I made comments and questions, with the design team, and we're trying to do what we can to stitch up as many holes as we can.
Thank you. Do you anticipate anything else to come up, like we were discussing the skylight tonight? Just, I know that, that's an added, every little $50,000 costs here, there, and everywhere. We're gonna get to our 1.3 million contingency, without the tariff. So that's just a concern for me.
No, I completely understand. The one thing that I know that I had been talking to the design team that came up after I think the interiors meeting, it was about the acoustics, that there's concerns that that there are concerns about it being, what if it's echoey, because there is that hole that connect the lower floor to the upper floor. And so there has been some discussion about, should there be a white noise system in there, and that the preferred approach would be to have an acoustical engineer design that, rather than allow I guess a design bid build be done by a contractor. So I think we were gonna finish talking about that in terms of engineer, and I forgot what the proposed, I think it was something like $2,000, Leah, for the acoustical engineer to review and do a design for that. But we haven't been totally prepared, but we've had that conversation, and we were going to come back with a full proposal. But that's the only thing that I've seen that was trying to respond to concerns that we might put in a white noise system.
Do you have any indication from Horsley Witten about this stormwater issue, about increasing the cost substantially to meet the conditions of the town engineer and our town stormwater regulations?
I have not heard, and I have not talked to them about that, but that is an excellent question. We can get back to you about that.
Okay, that's a big concern, obviously, with that still being in flux, and
right.
With us coming tight on the bid timeline.
I will ask them.
Jean?
This white noise machine, I've never heard of that kind of solution. That's new to me, but
It's sound masking.
so why aren't
I don't
we
know if
providing
that's-
enough acoustical ceiling tile, wall finishes, floor finishes?
So we are, to the extent possible. There is not a whole lot of ceiling and wall in that area. There is a lot of glass, and it is also right on the main entry. Part of the concern is also it's right near the children's area, so there's a lot of excited kids coming into the library, and it's just going to be a little noisier. We are investigating panels and other things, but when we had approached our acoustic engineer that we use earlier on in the project, their recommendation, if you were really concerned about the sound and wanted to mitigate it to the best extent possible, their recommendation was this white noise system.
So are you using that on your other library projects, your other historical library projects? I'm sure you have a lot of glass on your other projects.
We have used it on past projects. I can't remember which one specifically. It's depended on the location of the library, the users themselves. We've had some that were less concerned about having the opening, but it also depends on the uses of what's immediately there. Some of our libraries, because it is more of a general use space, it's not as much of a concern having the kids, or the kids are not immediately adjacent to this big opening, but we have used sound masking in the past.
Has the engineer done an analysis of the amount of glass, amount of hard surfaces to determine that, I mean, there might be a way of reducing the amount of glass rather than adding another thing?
Thorough analysis has not been done at this point, but that is something that we can look into.
Thank you.
So, was there any tariff impact beyond steel to discuss?
I have a question on the tariff. Why
Okay.
would the tariff be borne to us? Our subcontractors should be bidding the cost of materials of the project. Why would we pay a tariff?
We were just trying to hold a number in case tariffs are approved and all of a sudden materials go up in cost. we're not to pay the, we're concerned about escalated costs.
So it's an
because-
escalation
Yeah.
contingency.
Yes, yeah.
So Alicia, are we going to be using an AIA prime contract?
I'm not sure that Mike Edwards is on the contract. He's going
So-
to be.
Typically, the AIA prime contracts have language that say that all costs and escalations are responsibility of the bidding contractor.
Sure, that there's no question. They're going to have to cover it. It's just the estimates that were in place, do anticipate some escalation. This was per the
Sure.
advice of the MBLC to say, be sure you take into consideration, it's an
course.
abundance of caution to make sure that we are covered in case.
So, all
There
right, so
are
it's an
spikes.
escalation contingency in the event something comes up.
Yes, it's not a separate line item. It's like
Okay.
extra escalation.
That makes sense. It's just, I was confused why we'd pay steel specifically. That's just an example being used.
That
Okay.
is what the recommendation was, because steel's basically a big number, and so
Sure.
those tariffs would be felt, right?
Okay.
So are we at a point where we're prepared to vote to go out to bid pending further town internal review? And if so, is there a motion to that effect?
I'm going to stick with the theme, Scott, and I have another question regarding that.
Okay.
Have our designers done any peer reviews of these documents with any outside firms, third parties, to just get another set of eyes on the documents to, review code, any other situations with the design documents?
So we haven't done a third-party review as such. We do have internal reviewers who are not on our design team who have been checking the documents at each stage. We do also have a code consultant who is reviewing the documents for code concerns. And per this committee, I believe it was this committee's recommendation to bring on a commissioning agent, we have had the drawings reviewed by a commissioning agent, and we've been going through those comments and addressing those and picking those up. So those are the levels of review that we've done to date.
Okay.
So is there now a motion to proceed to go out to bid pending town internal review approvals?
Can we
Move.
add to that pending this acoustical problem
Yeah.
that just developed?
Just seems like there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, the
It's not-
acoustical was just in response to Kristen asked if I thought there were any other unknowns, and that's just one of the unknowns.
Yeah, well, it sounds like maybe there's more unknowns that you just
Yeah.
haven't brought up yet. I'm surprised we have a design this far along and we are only finding out now that it's going to be a noisy space and that there weren't other design moves made earlier to make that not a noisy space.
Or move the children so that they were someplace else.
Well, my biggest concern is the stormwater, but that will be part of the town review, so it's kind of covered by the motion. What's the penalty for waiting, Eleanor or Alicia?
Money, time is money. That's all it could. I mean, because it has ripple effects that if it doesn't go to bid, it adds more money. Adds additional time to the lease. That's all.
Ellen?
So I just need to say that the design that we have now, where we've placed children, the contiguous areas that we've created in this building, the impact of the northern aspect, the lower ceilings in the bottom, all have driven the light. We want children to be housed and be on the immediate bottom floor next to the meeting room, next to the bathrooms, next to the mother's nursing room. We have always known that having the skylight would be a noise issue, and we actually have been talking about it, Jean, and reality is, as we're trying to introduce daylight, sun, and warmth into a building that is going to have low elevation and headroom on the bottom floor, and primarily be now having all of the public faces face north, we made the design choices that we made, and we've had a building that has been laid out according to the building program that I wrote in 2011, and it has changed extremely little, actually, even since the 2014 to 2016 planning and design grant. So we have some of the limitations because we're adding on to an existing historic building, and we have some limitations because of the orientation of our site. And those are realities that we're seeing in the design.
Yeah, I'm not looking for changes in all of that. What I'm suggesting is that if an acoustician was part of the design process, might have said, well, from our analysis, the walls should not be wood. The interior walls maybe need to have an acoustical treatment on the walls, maybe up by the glass in the skylight. Maybe there needs to be baffles added that hang down that control some of the sound. It's just, it sounds as if we've gotten to the ends of the project and we want to add a mechanical electrical item in to create noise rather than solving the walls and the ceiling problem. It, you know, but we can't answer that here. That's what an acoustician does. They analyze and they say, you need 10% more soft surfaces in this space, or whatever.
And we did ask them early on when the concern came up, because we were talking about ways to bring panels in, and we do have an acoustic ceiling panel through the 3 levels that are right at this multi-level opening. But their recommendation, because we asked, what can we add? Can we add baffles? Can we add fabric to this opening to help? And we are doing some of that. Their recommendation to us was, if it is this much of a concern and you want the concern to go away, sound masking really is the best solution. That was this particular acoustician's recommendation to us.
Glenn?
Do we even know whether it is an issue? Are we just speculating that it might be an issue, and if it is an issue, that this would be the solution? Have we determined that noise is going to be an issue?
I don't have specific data on that. It's experience from all the libraries. The concern was raised from MBLC because of experience they've had at other libraries in kind of similar orientations. So,
Okay,
but
so
it is a very good question.
So it was MBLC that raised the issue, and that caused us to look at it and say, hey, you know what? Yes, that might be a problem for us. Okay. And all right. All right. So Alicia, when you responded to Kristen's question, are you saying that this is an issue that we've identified that needs to be addressed, or this might be an issue that we need to address?
This might be an issue that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
We had a fleeting conversation with the design team. We talked about this potentially could be an issue, but they needed to look at it a little bit more. And that just came up. And so when she asked me, I just know that that's one issue that they might be looking, that might need to be dealt with.
Okay. So it came up and we're addressing it.
Okay, so I guess it takes us back to, do we want to wait to go out to bid, or do you want to make that decision tonight?
Is anyone on the project team telling us that no, they're not going to be ready to go out to bid? Alicia, are you going to be ready to go out to bid?
that is the plan, pending that, assuming that we get approval from the planning board on the 6th to proceed.
What about historical? Don't we have to wait for them, or shouldn't we wait for them?
To respond to the, regarding the skylight,
To go, to out, yes, absolutely.
we can ask them about the, we could, on our meeting on the 22nd, but you all voted in favor of the skylight. I think that the design team has a direction on what to draw, and it's whether it's, we could try to, I think the documents would have to be, we would ask them if they would prefer that we try to restore the skylight. But honestly, we have to, I'd want to hold something in an allowance or somehow capture the cost of a new one, because we don't know the condition of the thing. I can't promise the Historic Commission that we'll be able to salvage it, or if that makes the best sense. I heard from people on the committee that as much as they'd like I mean, we do need their input, but I agree that there might not be super practical to try and salvage that historic piece. We just need to see what it looks like, and we're not going to know truly what it looks like until they start ripping that roof off. But we can get historic's input, what their preference is, but it would have to also probably be modified to meet energy code as well, because I imagine it's not insulated glass.
We were on the Historical Commission's agenda in order to ask for a letter of support for the historic entrance. So that's the reason we're on their agenda on the 22nd.
What harm would it be to wait until we finish with the planning board, or hope that the planning board finishes on the
Oh,
6th?
we have to. We have to wait.
No, I mean, take a vote after planning board. I mean, the planning board could say, come back in 2 more weeks too, with some more changes.
But I mean, the
Okay,
motion
what-
is, motion is contingent upon
Right.
town internal review. So that's taken care of in the motion. What it's not taken care of is if we have concerns about other things like acoustics. Kristen, you want to chime in?
Well, I'm assuming that the majority of you will be at the planning board meeting on January 6th. I'm wondering if you could post a joint meeting and make the decision to go out to bid on January 6th rather than tonight, if that makes everyone feel better. But I'm not sure, Alicia, if that makes the time frame. So I'm just making that as a suggestion.
No, I guess there's no harm to put off the bid. The next time, I think this group is hoping to get together, that's a little further down on the agenda, I believe is January 18th, off the top of my head. And so I think that's
15th.
I'm sorry?
15th. So it would be.
15th. Oh, I'm sorry. 15th.
So I'm not looking to extend when we go out to bid. I'm looking to see if they could vote to go out to bid on the 6th to give the committees more confidence, but not hold up the bid if everything is going to go okay and as planned.
I think they can still vote. We go out to bid when we next meet on the 15th, because we still have to wait that 2-week comment period after the select board. So not a whole lot's going to change at the 6th. Even if we vote, we still have to wait that 2-week block of time, which the 15th happens during that 2-week block of time. So I guess there's no harm, no foul to wait to the next meeting. We meet on the 15th. That isn't as long as we meet on the 15th.
I mean, the other thing with
We can
planning
meet
board
on the 8th.
is not remote. Planning board is in person only. We have to have
Right.
an in-person quorum of all of our committees, which may be asking a lot if it snows, especially. So 15th
Well,
may be a better option.
Yeah, the 15th works,
And
and we
that,
don't lose.
that
any
is a Wednesday. I'm sorry, this isn't my request because on the 13th, I'm not available. But if we could meet Wednesday, the 15th, I can carry this agenda item forward to that meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
That seems to be the consensus.
Can we have in between, have a working group meeting where Feingold brings their solution for the acoustical issue?
Yep, we will try to find a date. It's getting tricky. There's a lot of meetings, but we will endeavor to find a date for the working group to get together. Great idea, Jean.
We'll have to see the 6th and the 8th, you know, the 1st is a holiday, the 8th is the Conservation Commission, and that's in person. And then the following Wednesday would be this joint meeting again. Feingold Alexander is not working the week of Christmas. Just checking to see.
Is there a Tuesday for the working group that's not on a select board night so that?
Maybe the
Scott.
7th. Let me survey and see if the working group could meet on June 7th. I'm doing the same thing, January 7th. Because I think that that's the only night. I wouldn't be available the Thursday before, and the Thursday of the 9th is budget hearing. So let me add that to a survey of all of the working group.
The CHA background just freaks me out. It looks like stuff falling in the background, you know, in your windows.
So I'll survey all of you. I'll carry the vote to the January 15th agenda. And I'll, once I hear back from the library working group, I'll send you a revised meeting posting. So you'll see 3 different meetings that first full week of January, if the working group can meet on the 7th.
Is there anything else for this meeting, Ellen or Alicia?
Oh, I
Just
think
to, just to confirm that everybody be available on the 15th to be able to review and vote to go to bid, that would be helpful.
Is it remote?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be like this, be a Zoom meeting.
I may be on a ferry, but I can remote in.
okay.
Okay,
Well-
so I need the PTBC to hang on after this meeting, but we can adjourn the joint committees if that's so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so Buffy, could you call the roll, please?
Dirks, aye. Fleckner, not here. Roach,
Aye.
C4,
Aye.
Steele,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski.
I think we lost Karpinski. I don't see him on.
Okay,
He said he'd call right back in if he didn't.
okay. Patton,
No, he's on.
okay.
He just
Karpinski,
needs- Yeah, he's on.
we're having it. Chris, we're having an adjournment voting. So I'm calling on your vote.
They need to, lost his connection and dialed back in, so there he goes. Are you there, Chris? He needs to be accepted again, or whatever she did the last time.
I'm back in. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Chris, we're voting on adjourning.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'm an
Pat,
aye.
Aye.
Roberts,
Hi.
Zegowitz,
Aye.
10-0-0.
So
Okay, thanks, everybody. And
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
see you all again all too soon.
Night.
Happy
All
holidays.
right.
Have a
Take care.
good Christmas.
holiday.
Take care.
So Dina, you can make me host